Hello and welcome back to Biodiversity Impact, a podcast exploring the journeys of scientists, sustainability experts, entrepreneurs, creators, and others working towards a more nature-positive future for people, planet, and profit. I'm your host, Fez, and today I'm very excited to be joined in the studio by Dr Julio Díaz, a marine biologist at Uppsala University, whose work is helping us better understand marine ecosystems. Julio, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Fez. Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Great to have you, Julio.
How are you?
It's a delight. I'm great. I'm super happy to be having this conversation with you today. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
So let's dive right in, Julio. To start us off, what do you do as a marine biologist? Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you into this field?
So I am working with marine invertebrates, sponges, which is a big group of marine invertebrates. It's the oldest group of animals that are in the oceans nowadays, and are very diverse and very important, especially in the deep sea and in some environments like caves, but also in tropical reefs. So big group. And my work, so I do several things, but my main work is to put a name on the sponge species. So I am what is called a taxonomist. And this is important because sponges are very difficult to identify. And when we go to the field, we have these huge sponge gardens and sponge fields with so many species, but then nobody knows what is in there. So they need a taxonomist, and we, the taxonomists, are not so abundant nowadays. It's a discipline that is maybe not so fancy, so it's going down, and at the same time, it's very important because if you don't know what you have in the place you are studying, then how you know how many species you have? So you don't know the biodiversity. How do you know which species are endangered? So how do you know how the species evolve in time, the population? Nothing. You need to start from the basis, which sounds quite obvious, but it's not. So nowadays, for instance, sponge taxonomists, I don't know how many we are in the world, but maybe we are 50 in the world. That means that many research groups, they don't have sponge taxonomy, so they don't know what they collect, what they have in their, for instance, maybe when they do a survey for assessing the fishing impact on an area. So yeah, that's one thing I do. We go and we explore, especially areas that are poorly known. That's more exciting. Sometimes I've been working in projects that aim to protect areas. So first of all, we need to look interesting areas to protect. Then we go there, we see what is in there, and then we collect the samples using different devices like robots or dredges. Depends on the area, depends on the landscape. And then we check the biodiversity, we check which species are there. If there is a new species, which is often the case in the case of sponges, then you have to describe the species and you have to put a name on it. We sequence those species if we can, which is not easy sometimes. We are building this huge database of DNA and DNA sequences. And yeah, that's what I do. I do a little bit of ecology, a little bit. So meaning that we try to find out how the environmental variables affect these sponges. And by environmental variables, I mean like temperature, salinity, but also anthropogenic impacts like fishing or the rise of temperature by global change, the loss of landscape, could be anything. and then you check if there is an effect or not, and then you ask yourself why is affecting or is not affecting. So that's another part of my job. But mostly I'm a taxonomist. Nowadays, who knows in the future? Because, but for the moment, I really enjoy checking the characters of the species we collect. So, in the case of sponges, they have microscopic structures called spicules, which are made of silica, like glass, and every species has his own spic. And we use this in combination with molecular tools and also chemical tools. Now here in the Museum of Evolution, together with Paco Cárdenas, my supervisor, to put a name and to fix the phylogenetic relationship between the species. Yeah, that's me.
Fascinating.
Thank you.
Really interesting. And what is taxonomy and what is a sponge?
What is taxonomy? Is the discipline that name the species in every group of species. So a taxonomist looks for characters, and you are looking for a character that is specific to a species, so you can differentiate that species from another species. Then you make a description and you say this species is Homo sapiens because we have the bones in the ear, blah blah blah. So yeah. And the second question was,
what is a sponge?
what is a sponge? So sponges are, for me, are fascinating because they are so different than the rest of the animals. So nowadays we know, almost sure, that they are sister group to the rest of the animals. And the sponge is basically a sac with cells that are loose inside this sac. And the cells are not very specialized, so they can switch from one type to another. And the function of the body of the sponge is made by these cells, but also by huge community of bacteria that lives in symbiosis with the sponge. So usually when we talk about the sponge, we talk about a holobiont, which is the combination between the sponge cells and the bacteria cells that lives in close relationship and they work together. So this is huge in the sponges. If you take a gram of a sponge, for instance, from 40-50% of the weight is bacteria. And it changes from one species to another. But you have thousands of species. You have a whole phylum of bacteria that lives only in sponges. And this is very important in many ways on an ecosystem level, because sponges, they do nitrogen fixation, carbon fixation occurs, so the nutrient recycling. Also, they are the biggest source of natural products from the sea, meaning that every year we find many new molecules with some bioactivity from sponges. This is a huge field, and I think it has many possibilities and potential for biotechnology, for medical applications, for industrial applications as well. So that's also another reason for us to protect the sponges. So you can try to protect the ecosystem, but you can also try to protect a pool of new molecules that you may benefit from in the future.
Mm-hmm. So there is a wealth of knowledge and resources we are yet to discover from these sponges.
Yes. And nowadays, because there was this was very trendy in the 80s and the 90s, the search for natural products in sponges. But there was this big problem called the supply problem, in that you may find the cure of cancer, let's say. in a species. But if this species is scarce, there is not many specimens in the field, or if you cannot produce that molecule artificially, then what? You cannot synthesize enough of this molecule to have a supply. So supply problem is that and sponges are very hard to grow at situ. If you take them out of the environment, usually they die or they don't grow well. So that was in the 80s. Everybody was like, "Yeah, we will fix many things with sponges and other invertebrates in the sea." But then in the end, there was this supply problem. But nowadays, with the rise of all these fancy molecular techniques, we can think again about all this problem. And so I'm not an expert, but maybe we can go to the origin of the molecular toolkit and produce these molecules in a bioreactors more efficiently. So it has opened again these bots of such an interesting opportunities and things to discover. Yep.
Super interesting. So sponge biodiversity is important for people,
Yes.
the planet,
Yes.
and for potential new technologies and new molecules that might be important for businesses and profits in the future.
100%. So sponge biodiversity is correlated with chemical biodiversity, and that's a heritage that we should protect. And
Working in marine biology can be both inspiring and demanding, Julio. What keeps you motivated to continue working in this space?
I mean, I love what I do. I'm not think I could be working in a 9-to-5 job for all my life. So what I do is always new. You never do the same thing twice. Now, for instance, here in Uppsala, I'm working with a collection from Norway, collection of sponges from deep sea coral reef. So in the deep sea, there are coral reefs. In Norway, there is the biggest one in the world, made of basically by a species of coral called Desmophyllum pertussum. So I'm working with the sponges associated to this large deep sea coral system, which is a system. It goes in parallel through all the coast of Norway. And this is very different to what I was working in my PhD, which was in the Mediterranean. Species are very different, and the environmental drivens are different. I'm going to an expedition to Iceland in October, and I'm very excited about it. I never been in the North Atlantic on a cruise. So yeah, it's very. I mean, you never do the same thing twice, and you have to keep yourself updated. You travel a lot if you like traveling. You meet nice people, and yeah, I don't know. It's fun, very funny. It looks that it's not funny. Maybe if somebody. I mean, you are a lot of.
It's a lot of hard work.
A lot of hard work. I mean, being in a boat, for instance, I love it. But you get seasick, and if you are 1 month in a boat and the weather is bad, you are seasick, and the work is very hard, and then you say, I want to go home with my mother, you know. but you can't. You have to be there. But yeah, whatever. It's good. It's interesting. Then you see a dolphin, and you are happy. You are good. or whale.
Fantastic. Lots of opportunities to travel.
Yes. Traveling. I mean, I think that in research and in science in general, no matter what, you travel, especially if you are working with the environment. I mean, you are going to Borneo now.
Yes, right? Yes. In a couple of weeks, I'll be in the primary tropical rainforests of Borneo. Very exciting. It's a real delight to be in the ecosystem, because when you're working in a museum, you're looking at the characters. For example, you mentioned you look at the spicules of the sponges, and you look at the really fine detail. You even do sequencing and molecular work. But then when you're in the field, your brain sort of expands to think more in a holistic way of how that is within its context in the ecosystem. And it really helps when you've experienced in the field. It's essential to be in the field and then back in the lab and back in the museum.
I agree.
Doing the work.
I agree. Otherwise, you lose a lot.
You become disconnected almost. Of course, Julio, no journey is without its obstacles. What are some of the key challenges you've faced in your work as a marine biologist?
Challenges. I mean, the beginnings are hard. So it's very hard to get money for a PhD. That I think that many people that are listening to us would agree with me.
Yes.
And then there is a lot of competition to get the funding and to get the projects. So you need to publish a lot. The publication system is not good the way it is. I think it gives more importance to the quantity than to quality. It means that sometimes you are in this stage in which you want to publish at any cost, and maybe it would be better to wait a little bit and make a bigger paper or a better paper, but then you don't because blah blah. So the citations and so
And everything is so fast paced now that you have to keep up.
You have to keep up.
There's this idea of publish or perish.
Yes, that's it's going to kill the science, I think, in the future because I'm not sure if current people know how it works, but I think that if people really knew how that works, there will be a revolution in the way that they perceive science.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, I remember I was reviewing a paper. When you review a scientific paper, you do it free of charge. And you know, I was reviewing a paper and my sister said, "Oh, that's nice. You get an extra income alongside that." And I said, "Oh, who's going to tell her?" No, this is all sort of work that we do on top of our work as scientists. In addition to our research, we provide feedback to other people's work, and peer review process is very rigorous. It requires a lot of energy and a lot of concentration to ensure that the science that is being published is good quality.
And the journal makes money.
Yes.
That's the thing.
They don't
pay you, but then...
And sometimes we have to pay to publish our work. In fact, the majority of the time, unless our universities or institutions have publication agreements, often the cost burden falls on the researcher, which is outrageous, really.
It makes no sense.
Yes.
No matter how you are using public money to do research, you do the research, you do the research because you have been studying for so many years. You do research and then you send it to a journal. The reviewers don't get money, but then you have to pay the journal, and the journal makes a lot of profits of doing what? A PDF. Publishing the PDF in the website, because that's what they do. They don't even make the paper journal nowadays. It's all online.
Yes, there's a lot that have converted to digital.
Not a good system anymore. I think it has to be updated. But how you do that? Because I mean we all depend on it. So that
it's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one.
Yes, the scientific process. I mean, it all comes back down to resources, time resources, financial resources for people to do the work.
Yep.
And that is, especially as a taxonomist, that is strangely in the time that we live in. We're going through a biodiversity crisis. Society is acknowledging now and waking up to the fact that we are really dependent on nature and we are part of it. People are not aware that taxonomists, such as yourself, is the foundational step to understanding biodiversity and protecting it.
Yep. People don't understand it, and many scientists scientists don't understand it as well because they feel that they don't care about taxonomists. I was telling you about this service many times. There are no taxonomists on board, and they don't know which species they are working with. So yeah, it's I don't know what will happen. I mean, maybe it's not that important, but I think it is.
I think it's super important. It's the first step. Without knowing the names of things, the knowledge of them is lost too. And that is a quote by Carl Linnaeus.
Okay.
Yes.
Look at you. Cool.
So, Julio, looking ahead, what are your thoughts on the future of marine biology and ocean conservation?
I mean, I'm a very positive person. I think we are on the good path. I think that the key is that we should educate our society. The more educated we are, the better. So I think it's key to make poor countries rich as quick as possible. Because when you are rich, then you start thinking about conservation, which is obvious. Because if you are poor, you don't care about that, which is normal. You prefer to have food on the table. So this is my view of this, and sometimes it goes against the general opinion, where people don't take this into account. They just want to, save the ocean at all costs without taking the human part into consideration. And I think that this, in the end, is worse. It will make it worse because it won't work. So if a country is poor and they need to fish, you cannot just go there and tell them stop fishing. But maybe you should try to make fishing sustainable. You should try to teach them the importance of fishing, and at the same time you should picture the future of that people and try to take this into account, not to have this kind of egocentric point of view that white people had sometime, and trying to to save the world, because you cannot have everybody happy always. For instance, I'm from the Balearic Islands, and in the Balearic Island there is fishing, but there is not that much fishing. So shall we stop fishing in the Balearic Islands? Well, we know that if you manage fishing, I'm talking about bottom trawling properly, you can have sustainability. While if you stop, then you will need to bring the food from Vietnam or from other places. So it's always a balance. And I think that it's better to use the brain than the heart in these cases. And maybe this is not a popular opinion. And maybe you should edit this a lot. Take-home message is that we need to think before acting, and not acting guided by our emotions. And sometimes nowadays I see this a lot, that people they want to protect and make these big protected areas, and that's good. I'm not saying it's not good, but we should think of everything we do, and sometimes it's a balance. And also it's important, I think, when it comes to ocean conservation, to keep in mind all the players, all the people involved.
Yes.
Not just the scientists, not just the fishermen or whatever, but the whole picture. And try to, but say that I think that we are moving towards the good destination.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when it comes to protection, of course, research is needed, and we are not doing enough research. So This is one thing, one important thing. We should fund more research, especially when it comes to the deep sea. We know nothing about deep sea. So maybe before protecting, we need to ask ourselves, what do we know? And before protecting, we need to invest in these big projects to see what to protect and how to protect it. Otherwise, we will fail. We will protect maybe not the place you should protect or not in the way you should protect it. So a lot of money has to be invested. We have to keep in mind that this is an investment. It is not waste money. This is something that we have to teach to society. Sometimes people believe that this is waste money. It's not. There is no return, and that's. I mean, you know that better than me. So it's important to put the money, put a price on what every euro you are putting on the table, how much you will get back in the future. This is our job as a scientist, and maybe this is something we should improve. And deep sea research is very important because we know nothing about deep sea. I mean, my background is from the Mediterranean, and in the Mediterranean, as soon as you go deeper than 700 or 1,000 meters, then you know nothing. Virtually, you know nothing. And this 10 kilometers from the coast. I mean, so this requires a big boat. This requires expensive equipment. It's not a cheap thing. I mean, you have to put money on the table, like it or not. But yeah, I think it's necessary.
A lot to think about there. And what gives you hope, and what should we be paying serious attention to in this space?
I mean, it gives me hope that I see that people is really involved in conservation, especially in Europe. And here we are in Sweden, and so in Sweden people has this in mind, and to the all levels of society, I think so. That's something to have hope of 100%. We should be paying attention. Yeah, I mean, because we're moving towards the right direction, I think. As I said before, we need more money, more investment. I think that we should be paying attention to. So, and this is maybe a very general answer, but we live in this society in which science is everywhere. And sometimes people don't know about science. So there is a danger in having a society that depends on science and that invests in science, and politicians that took political decisions based on science, but they may be listening to what the people say, which is good, if people know about science. But if you have a big population that doesn't know about science and the politician is listening to them, there is a dangerous combination. So I think that we should teach more about science, not only in the high school, but to the kids. That's I think a big gap we have as a society. Mm-hmm. Everything is super scientific, but you go to the elementary school and kids don't learn about the scientific method and the things that are shaping the nowadays world.
Yes.
And this is something we should improve. And people is lazy in general because science is not straightforward. You need to learn and to read and to blah 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 blah. So this is something I think we should improve. No, not fix because it's okay, but improve. There's a room for improvement.
Absolutely. And one of the outcomes of the big economic assessment of biodiversity called the Dasgupta Review, one of the major outcomes of that publication was that we need more education about biodiversity in order to make evidence-based decision-making for science and society. And we do that through, as you say, starting young, and getting kids and young people connected with the scientific method, especially through practical methods, because unfortunately, due to funding constraints in schools, there's not a lot of practical lab work or going out into the forest or to the beach, taking the kids to actually connect with these habitats and ecosystems and have a more critical thinking of their environments in such a way.
Of course, I think it's probably more expensive to teach the kids like that. I mean, I remember when I was a kid in school, we were like 35 in a class, all them put them, and so if you want to have a good education, and maybe you need investment in the education system, and you need to teach the teachers. Maybe the teachers also don't know a little about the scientific methods. I don't know. I mean, we are in Sweden. Sweden is different. Sweden is probably better than what I have seen in my childhood in Spain, and I don't know what's going on nowadays. To be honest, I don't know. Maybe it's better. But when I was a kid, scientific method, come on. I don't know. So you have your biology classes, and the teacher was reading the book. And some teachers were better, some teachers were worse, but I don't think we were getting prepared for the world we are living in right now. So.
Thank you so much for tuning into Biodiversity Impact. I really hope you found today's conversation with Julio interesting, inspiring, and insightful. Thank you, Julio.
Thank you, Vess.
Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.